All right, today we're going to dive into one of the great modern business stories. Seriously, it's a classic David versus Goliath tale, but, with potato chips. This is the incredible story of Balaji Wafers and how a family that started with literally nothing built a snack empire that took on a global giant and actually won.
So this is the big question, right? How on earth can a company that started by hand slicing potatoes in some tiny room even think about competing with a titan like PepsiCo? I mean, we're talking about a corporation with a marketing budget that's bigger than the GDP of some small countries. It sounds absolutely impossible, but it happened. And we're going to find out how.
To really get how Balaji pulled this off, you gotta go back to the beginning. We need to talk about its founder, Chandubhai Virani. His story starts in a world of pretty serious hardship, a place that would end up shaping the core values of the company he was destined to build. Chandubhai Virani's beginnings were just about as humble as they get. He was born into a poor farming family in Gujarat, with very little access to education, simply because his family was always struggling just to get by. But, that early experience with scarcity, it wasn't just a disadvantage. It forged this powerful discipline and a relentless drive in him to build something better. So, with that fire in their bellies, Chandubhai and his brothers took this huge leap of faith. They packed up, left their village, and headed for the city of Rajkot. They were absolutely determined to find any work they could, anything that would give them a steady income and a shot at building something of their own. Okay, so they get to the city, but it wasn't some instant success story. Not even close. Before Balaji Wafers was even a thought, they had to go through some significant struggles and one major failure that would, ironically, become their greatest teacher. In Rajkot, Chandubhai started right at the bottom, working in all these different canteens, just soaking it all in and learning the food business from the inside out. He and his brothers eventually saved up enough to manage a small canteen in a movie theater. They were finally their own bosses. They were learning what customers liked, what quality meant. But then, disaster struck. The whole cinema went out of business, and their venture just collapsed overnight. They lost everything. And this right here, this quote just says it all. It perfectly captures their mindset. For Chandubhai, this absolutely devastating loss wasn't the end of the road. It was a turning point. It was a really, really hard-earned lesson that would shape every single decision he made from that day forward. And what came next was a total game changer. It was an idea born in, of all places, a single rented room. This, right here, was the humble birthplace of what would become Balaji Wafers. I mean, just look at the contrast here. It's pretty wild. On one hand, you've got the reality of their setup, a tiny room slicing potatoes by hand with almost no money to their name. But on the other hand, you have this incredibly powerful and disruptive business philosophy. Give customers more for their money, never compromise on quality, and always, always be affordable. This simple idea, well, it would become their secret weapon. All right, so they've got their core philosophy locked in. They're ready to hit the market. But they were smart. They knew they couldn't fight the giants on their terms. No way. They had to write a completely new playbook. They had to create the underdog strategy. So what did Balaji do? They basically looked at the multinational playbook and just threw it out the window. While their competitors were pouring millions into flashy TV ads, Balaji obsessed over distribution. They made sure their chips were on the shelf in every tiny town, places the giants didn't even bother with. And instead of getting into price wars, they went with a low-margin, high-volume model. That just means they made a tiny profit on each bag, but sold a ridiculous number of them. This delivered incredible value and built a customer base that was fiercely loyal. And the way they grew, it all came down to just unbelievable discipline. Every single rupee of profit went straight back into the business. The founders lived super frugally and were obsessed with making their manufacturing more and more efficient. And, this is so crucial, they treated their thousands of distributors like true partners. They built a supply chain on trust and mutual respect, not just profit margins. That loyalty, it became an unbreakable competitive advantage. And the result of all this? The payoff for that disciplined strategy? An annual turnover that's now crossed 4,000 crore rupees. To put that into perspective for you, that's well over 500 million US dollars. This staggering number is proof of their unique approach. It shows you can build a massive, profitable company by focusing on operational excellence and real value, not a massive marketing budget. So, after all that, what are the big takeaways? What can we all learn from this incredible snack empire? Let's break down this journey into some clear, actionable lessons for entrepreneurs and managers alike. All right, for all you aspiring entrepreneurs out there, listen up, because the lessons here are huge. First, Chandubhai Virani's story proves without a doubt that where you come from does not define where you can go. Second, failure isn't the end, it's a classroom. That failed cinema canteen was the most important class he ever took. Third, slow, disciplined, consistent growth will almost always beat a frantic dash for scale. And finally, creating real, undeniable value for your customers, that can be the most powerful marketing you ever do. And hey, if you're already in a management role, there are some gold nuggets in here for you too. Balaji's success shows the immense power of mastering your operations and your supply chain before you go all in on marketing. It proves that when you build a business on a foundation of ethics, you create a kind of loyalty that money just can't buy. It's a powerful reminder to always prioritize the long-term vision over short-term profits and to never, ever lose touch with your core customers. So I want to leave you with this one thought. The Balaji story proves that an underdog with a relentless focus on creating real, undeniable value can challenge even the biggest players in the game. So, what giant in your industry, in your career, or just in your world is waiting to be challenged by a simpler, a better, a more honest approach? Something to think about.